Chapter 2. Who Am I? A sense of belonging. I constantly wonder who I was and where I really came from. Where did I belong? Where did I get my height from? Why did I have that hair texture? Why was I abandoned as a baby? Why was I placed for adoption? What did I do wrong? As humans, it's very important for us to have a sense of belonging, to know where we come from and where we are going. From an early age, my adoptive mom told me the truth. I kept bombarding her with questions. Why don't you have baby pictures of me? Did you feel very sick when you were pregnant with me? Did you breastfeed me? I guess at some point, she realized I won't rest my case. One day she called me to her room and with so much love and affection explained how I was chosen from many others to be her own. She took me back to that moment when she laid eyes on me for the first time. Adopted. I wasn't her first adopted child, but after some years she felt the need to add one more member to the family. And I understand it was not necessarily me, but there we were, obviously. I remember next to nothing. Happens to be I really had issues then. While the rest of the kids could manage a fairly good behavior at the adoption center, as an almost 2-year-old toddler, I made them realize how unhappy I was with their care, and that they needed to get me some parents ASAP. I was told I would cry 24/7 nonstop. I was always sad and cranky, and no one could get close to me. Seems to be I was somewhat bitter then. As an African descendant, my hair had tight curls that required special combing skills, which I did not allow any person to execute on me. Being that it was so challenging to get to comb my hair, in the end, they just decided to cut it all off. One day, I was there looking all so harsh and with a not so appealing hairdo, when the door opened and a beautiful, elegant black woman appeared. She was scanning the entire area looking for her perfect match. Immediately I saw my chance, but I also spotted a rival child in the other crib, attempting to get my future mother's attention. Therefore, I prepared my lungs for the loudest shout, and I immediately let it out. There was no way she won't look towards my side. My plan worked, and I knew at that very moment that I had defeated the other baby with long hair and a lovely smile, and got myself a family. Love at first sight. My mother told me that the moment she saw me, I stretched my arms towards her, and she could not help but to carry me into her bosom. Everyone was surprised that Miss Bitter Prune, referring to me of course, had allowed a total stranger to carry her. And not only that, a week after we met, they asked her to take me home with her because I cried too much every time she left. I didn't allow them to sleep at night. My mother had to stop to buy clothes and food for me because she was not ready to take me home at that moment. For the next few months, while the adoption process was going on, I enjoyed my new family, and most importantly, they had no problem at all combing out my tight curls. Everything from the outside world amused me, the birds, the trees, the sea, and her eyes, the way she looked at me. I was in love. After a while, I was officially adopted. I was accepted and loved, but it wasn't long before it all turned into a nightmare. But I'll tell you all about it further on. Daddy's hectic job. My dad was always a good provider, but his hectic job did not allow him to spend much time at home. One thing I remember was the excitement of his return. He would always bring chocolate for me or a ton of blank white papers from his office so I could draw out my imagination. Mom and Dad gave me an excellent education, taught me good manners, and introduced me to God in their own way. I did not quite understand everything, but I knew there was something bigger than us out there. Life in the countryside. We lived in the countryside, so I did not really have neighbors close by. I made friends with my dogs. We always had 2 or 3 German shepherds at home, and it's all I needed. The yard was like a forest to me. We had all kinds of trees with fruits and diverse plants. I spent most afternoons running around with the dogs and climbing the different trees, eating mangoes, oranges, cherries, etc. By the time I was called for dinner, I barely had an appetite. I believe that this was the happiest part of my childhood. However, there were times while on top of the trees, I would just wonder who I really was. Sometimes we'd go out to run errands. I'd see other mothers with their babies and wonder, how bad can a baby be that a mother would want to abandon it? Is a child ever so bad that he or she would eventually earn his or her mother's rejection? Don't get me wrong. I've always been grateful to God for giving me a home with such loving parents, but there was always a part of me missing, and so much evidence in my life, from my perspective at that age, that I probably was a bad, unwanted child. Bullied at school. Even at school, I was constantly bullied because of my color, because of my hair, my voice, the way I talked, the way I looked, almost everything. I was convinced that there was something terribly wrong with me. People say how much they miss their school days. I can only remember it as a war zone where I had to survive until the moment I could finally get back home to safety. Sad to say, the bullying never really stopped until I finally graduated from high school. Adoption center. Back to the subject. Mom mentioned to me that at the adoption center, they told her that my biological mother always left me with another woman to take care of me, and one day she just did not return. Seems to me she forgot to pick me up. One day passed, 2, 3. She never came back. The lady that cared for me could not really manage such a small child, so she handed me over to the authorities, who then decided to put me into the system for adoption. That's the version they gave to my mom. My birth certificate, which did not include my father's name, was given to my adoptive mother. Mom showed me my original birth certificate, and I saw my biological mother's date of birth. I did the calculation quickly and realized that she was not older than 16 when she gave birth to me. I pondered on these things for years. I had my biological mother's name, and I had my adopted mother's permission to look for her. Although I tried various times, I could never find her. Looking for answers. Years after, I really wanted answers to all my questions, but I finally had to make peace with the idea that I would never find my biological mom. So I invented the most beautiful story of her existence for myself. Once upon a time, a young, beautiful girl got pregnant and had a lovely baby girl, me. But she was so young and clueless about how to take care of her baby that she preferred to leave her in the hands of someone that could provide her with a better future. With her heart torn apart, she made the hardest choice of her life. She had to let her baby go and never forgot about her. She remembered her birthday year after year and never stopped praying for her. I became satisfied with my version of the story and was able to forgive her, not knowing that the story I had invented was not so far from reality after all. In 2016, God blessed me with the opportunity to find my biological mother unconventionally. Here's how it all happened.